Imagine a plan, born nearly 2 centuries ago, still shaping the country we live in today. This is the story of the American system. It aimed to build a strong and independent United States. Many of its core concepts continue to spark debate and influence policies in modern America. This plan was not just about money or trade, it was about a vision for what America could become. The goal was to create a powerful, self-sufficient country, standing tall on the world stage. The American system was more than just a set of economic policies. It was a dream of national unity and progress. It envisioned a future where American factories hummed with activity. It imagined roads and canals connecting distant corners of the land. Farmers and manufacturers would support each other. The government would play an active role in making this happen. This was a new way of thinking for many Americans. It suggested that the nation's strength came from working together. The echoes of this grand design can still be heard in discussions about America's path forward. Understanding the American system helps us understand America itself. The early 1800s were a crucial time for the young United States. The nation had recently fought the War of 1812 against Great Britain. While America did not lose the war, the conflict highlighted serious weaknesses. The economy was one major area of concern. American manufacturing was still in its early stages. The country relied heavily on buying manufactured goods from other nations, especially Britain. This dependence made America vulnerable. If foreign trade was disrupted, as it was during the war, the country suffered. People realized that something needed to change for America to be truly strong and independent. Before the war, Thomas Jefferson's vision of an agrarian republic, a nation of farmers, was very popular. Many believed that America's strength lay in its land and its agricultural produce. However, the war showed the limits of this vision. Without a strong manufacturing base, the country struggled to produce its own weapons and supplies. The British blockade of American ports during the war nearly crippled the economy. This experience made many leaders rethink their economic ideas. A balanced economy with both agriculture and industry seemed necessary. Into this challenging economic landscape stepped Henry Clay. He was a charismatic and influential politician from Kentucky. Clay served in Congress for many years, including as Speaker of the House. He was known as the Great Compromiser for his ability to find common ground. But he was also a man of strong vision. Clay deeply believed in the potential of the United States. He wanted to see America grow into a powerful and prosperous nation. He worried about the country's economic weaknesses. He felt that America needed a clear plan to overcome them and build a brighter future for all its citizens. Clay was not the first to think about a national economic strategy. His ideas were inspired by earlier thinkers, most notably Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton was the first Secretary of the Treasury. He had argued for a strong federal government that actively promoted economic development. Hamilton believed in supporting American manufacturing and creating a national bank. Clay took these Hamiltonian ideas and adapted them to the needs of America in the early 19th century. He packaged them into a comprehensive program that he called the American System. He tirelessly promoted this system throughout his long political career. Clay's vision aimed to transform the nation from a collection of separate states into a truly united economic power. Henry Clay's American system rested on three main pillars designed to work together. The first pillar was the protective tariff. A tariff is a tax on imported goods. A protective tariff is set high enough to make foreign goods more expensive than American-made products. Clay argued that this would encourage Americans to buy goods made in their own country. This, in turn, would help American factories grow and create more jobs for American workers. The tariffs would also provide revenue for the government. The second pillar of the American system was a new national bank. The charter for the first Bank of the United States had expired. Clay and his supporters argued for the creation of a second Bank of the United States. This bank would serve several important functions. It would provide a safe place for the government to keep its money. It would issue a stable national currency, making trade easier across state lines. It would also help regulate state banks, making the entire financial system more reliable. By providing credit and loans, the national bank could also help finance new businesses and infrastructure projects. The third pillar was federal funding for internal improvements. Section 5, Building America Together, the Spirit of Economic Nationalism. At the heart of the American system was a powerful idea: economic nationalism. This meant putting the economic interests of the nation first. It was about building a strong, self-reliant American economy. Proponents like Henry Clay believed that America should not depend too much on other countries for essential goods or financial stability. They wanted America to control its own economic destiny. This spirit of economic nationalism was a driving force behind the push for tariffs, a national bank, and internal improvements. It was a call for Americans to work together to build their nation's wealth and power from within. The goal was to create a domestic market where American producers and consumers supported each other. Instead of sending raw materials like cotton to Britain and then buying back finished textiles, the American system encouraged making those textiles in American factories. This would keep jobs and profits within the United States. Section 6. Winds of opposition. Challenges to a unified economic path. Despite Henry Clay's passionate advocacy, the American system faced significant challenges and criticisms. Not everyone agreed that it was the best path for the nation. One major source of opposition came from the southern states. The southern economy was heavily based on agriculture, particularly the export of cash crops like cotton and tobacco to Europe. Southern planters worried that protective tariffs would harm their interests. They feared that if America taxed imported European goods, European countries might retaliate by taxing American agricultural exports. This would make southern crops more expensive and harder to sell abroad. Furthermore, Southerners felt that tariffs forced them to pay higher prices for manufactured goods. With high tariffs, imported goods became more expensive. Section 7. Forging a new economy, industry, infrastructure, and growth. Despite the challenges and opposition, the American system did have a significant impact on America's industrial growth and infrastructure development. The protective tariffs, when they were in effect, did help some American industries get started and grow. Young manufacturing businesses, especially in textiles and iron, found it easier to compete with foreign companies. This led to the expansion of factories, particularly in the New England and Mid-Atlantic states. More Americans found work in these new industries, leading to the growth of cities and a gradual shift away from a purely agricultural economy. This was a slow process, but the seeds of American industrial power were being sown. The push for internal improvements also led to tangible results. While federal funding was sometimes controversial and inconsistent, many important projects were completed. The National Road, for example, became a vital artery for westward expansion and trade. States and private companies, sometimes with federal encouragement or land grants, also invested heavily in building canals. The Erie Canal in New York was a spectacular success, connecting the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean. Unlike the early national banks, which were chartered to handle government transactions and stabilize the currency, the Federal Reserve is not a national bank in the traditional sense. It's a central banking system established by the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, designed to oversee monetary policy, regulate banks, and maintain economic stability in the U.S. Unlike a single government-owned national bank, the Fed is a network of 12 regional Federal Reserve banks, each privately owned by member banks in their districts, but operating under federal oversight. Its board is appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate, and it functions independently of direct government control, though it serves public interests. Think of it like a hybrid. Not a commercial bank taking deposits or making loans to the public, but a unique entity with centralized authority to manage the nation's money supply, set interest rates, and stabilize the financial system. Section 8. From Clay to Today. The American System's Lasting Legacy. The ideas behind Henry Clay's American system did not disappear with the 19th century. They have resurfaced and been adapted by later generations of American leaders. One of the most significant echoes can be seen in President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs during the Great Depression in the 1930s. Faced with a massive economic crisis, FDR's administration launched ambitious government initiatives. These included large-scale public works projects like building dams, roads, and bridges, which were very similar to the internal improvements advocated by Clay. The New Deal also involved government regulation of banking and support for American industries. Even in more recent times, elements of the American system's philosophy can be found in policies supported by both Democratic and Republican parties. For example, government investment in infrastructure such as highways, airports, and now digital networks continues to be a topic of discussion and action. In all, Both parties today incorporate parts of the American system while rejecting others. Do you think we should bring back the entire American system today or only certain parts? Please comment below. Until next time, remember to keep our heroes alive.